Today we are giving a lesson on drywalling for the Clueless. We have our tools laid out here and we'll explain what each one is and what is required of it. First of all, in drywalling we need to lay out our drywall. We have a number of, and for the really Clueless, this is drywall. The light side goes out, dark side goes to the back. To lay out our drywall, we have a number of tools that are used. We have the tape, we have the 4-foot rule, we have a selection of squares. We have the framing square for large work, and we have the tri-square for the smaller work. A pencil also comes in handy for marking on the drywall so you can see where to cut it. Coming down the line, we have our layout tools. Some of the other things we need. First of all, we need preparation for the drywall. As you can see, we have prepared for drywall in this situation. We have our stud wall up with 16-inch centers because the drywall is 4 foot wide, so every 3 feet is a sheet of drywall. Once the stud wall is up, we do our wiring. This is wire, number 12 wire, 3 wires for neutral, power, and ground. We have electrician's pliers to cut the drywall and do typical work on that. We have a utility knife. It's also handy in doing our wiring. One indispensable tool is the portable drill, which is electric and cordless. With that, we can add our boxes for the outlets in the wall. Each outlet has one box, wires running to and from the box to the power. These are screwed to the wall, and we strip the wires inside, ready for our outlet to be attached. The outlets are not attached until the drywall is up and finished. Final preparation after the wiring is done, we add the insulation. Insulation comes in rolls and is fiberglass buff. Behind this is our, we have the paper backing. They also have a foil backing for this. In this situation, we use the paper. We add this insulation, cut out for the boxes. This wall is now prepped for the sheet of drywall. Finishing up on our tools, some of the handy things for our tools for hanging drywall. One thing is where the boxes are located. Now, in a situation where you have an open wall and you can mark the boxes from the back, you can get back there, have somebody hold your sheet in place and mark it with a pencil. But in a situation like this, you cannot get back of this wall to mark it with a pencil. So in this case, we have a simple solution. We take a piece of sidewalk chalk. On each box down here, when we get ready to add our drywall, we come along and put our sidewalk chalk around the edge of the box. Now the box will be behind, so for this demonstration we will just turn this drywall sheet over, press it from the back. We set our sheet of drywall up and we'll tap it with a board and hammer. But for this demonstration, we will show it this way, and then when we actually hang the drywall, we will show it that way. So you can see the imprint on the back here of where that box is located. Once the box is located, we have our drywall saw. Now there's two ways to do this. You can use your utility knife to actually cut this out, but a more convenient tool is the drywall saw. Now for those who are not very good with tools, these are very sharp. It's in a pouch here. It also has a guard on it with very sharp narrow teeth and a very sharp point on the end. So don't stick this up your nose or anything like that. It will cut. To actually do the cutting then, we would force this in and cut around where the box is located. This we will demonstrate at a later time in our demonstration. Some other handy tools. Of course, the screwdrivers. We have the regular slotted screwdriver. We also use Phillips screwdrivers. A hammer comes in handy when the individual buys staples, which are too long for the insulation. These are 1/2-inch staples in here. We need 3/8 staples. So when we put up our insulation, we have to tap each nail in, each staple in, because it's a little bit too long. We've already talked about the cordless drill. This is a 19.2 Craftsman drill, which is reversible and variable speed. One of my favorite tools for drywalling is one that I've added here in recent years, called the screw shooter, which can be seen right here. Now don't get too carried away. This does not actually shoot screws into the wall. This screws them into the wall. Now for those that are a little bit inept at handling electrical things, you'll see this does not have a cord, but it has a cord in the box. So it does require some assembly. So we have to actually add this on, if I can get it in. And it now becomes a corded drill. It is also variable speed. It does have a nozzle on here. To attach our drywall, in this case, we're using drywall screws. And these are Phillips head screws. They fit right on that little driver point, Phillips head driver point, and go into the wall. By screwing this little cone back and forth, we can regulate how far it screws into the wall. So we don't want it to go too far, and it has to be deep enough that it doesn't show when the drywall is done. So the screw shooter is a very good tool to have if you're doing a small job. It's not worth investing in, but if you're doing a lot of it, it's very handy. The stapler, of course, is an indispensable tool in hanging our insulation. As I say, make sure you get the proper staples for the job. This would require a 3/8 staple. What we have here is 1/2 inch. So we're just using those and tapping them in. Another indispensable tool would be the knee pads. If you're doing work down at floor level here on cement, which is cold and hard on the knees, especially if you're old. So knee pads are indispensable for that purpose. I've already explained the drywall screws. They come, if you're doing a big job, you might as well get a big box. So we have plenty of drywall screws. Some other things handy would be the C-clamp for when we're attaching our boxes. Most of these have Phillips screws, so here again we have the two different screwdrivers, the regular slotted and the Phillips screwdriver. They're not interchangeable. You don't use the Phillips screwdriver for slotted screws. You don't use this straight blade for Phillips screws. Next step then would be the actual layout. Coming over to our job here, we need a sheet. It's going to be, we've already spaced our studs 4 foot apart, so each sheet will end up on a stud. So next step in our layout would be to determine the length of the drywall sheet. Unless you're extremely tall, a ladder is also helpful. Take your steel tape. If you have an assistant, they can hold it at the bottom. In this case, I think I can get a reading of 95¼ inches for our height of the drywall. As luck would have it, this is a little bit under 8 feet, which is the length of the drywall, so we'll have to cut a very narrow strip off. So this will be the top of our drywall sheet. So we'll need our 4-foot scale. We'll make it just a little over 95 high and put a mark. Do likewise on the opposite side. Then using the scale, line up the 2 marks. And draw a line across. Just a little bit off there. This will give you an indication of where your cut is going to be. To cut drywall, we'll use the utility knife. Make sure we're still on our marks. Make sure this rule does not move. And scribe a line down. Be sure to use the cutting edge of the utility knife to make the line. Now we've cut halfway across, then we'll move down. And then finish our cut, making sure you don't slide it into your leg. And simply slide the piece out, take it and break it down. So the cut is actually made. Take the utility knife then and finish the cut all the way through. So we now have the sheet at the right height for the job. Stay tuned for part 2 as we will actually do the layout and hanging of the drywall.